Hello and welcome to the FSF podcast. I am Tim. I am your host. And as a reminder, this is a show that is made by nerds for nerds. So we are glad to have you in our makeshift nerdery. Sooner or later, we'll be back to the nerdery. But hey, at least we're not in construction hell anymore. I mean, kind of, sort of over there, but that's a whole nother story. Our guest today, there's John. Thank you, John. We'll be editing that out. No, just kidding. No, that's John. He's our electrician. He's been helping us get these really cool lights above me that change to all kinds of fun colors. Anyway, our guest today is an actor and a stuntman. And oh yeah, he's done some modeling too, but he's more than just a pretty face. He's got a good looker though. But this dude is someone you have seen and heard in some shows and some video games, things that you've loved like Fortnite, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Skeleton Crew. I'm still deeply, madly in love with that show. But there's also Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic, The Goldbergs. I could keep going and going because Justin Cabanting has had a ton of cool stuff, and I am so glad to welcome him to the show. Welcome to the show, Justin.
Thanks so much, Tim. Thank you so much for having me on the show, on the FSF Popcast. This is such a great honor. Thank you so much. I'm very excited to share with you
excellent
a bit of me, and yeah, seeing how we roll.
All right, let's do this. All right, so first things first, Justin, one of the things that we always love to start off with our guests is finding out their backgrounds, their origins, because we're nerds and nerds love a good origin story. So in the story of Justin Cabanting, what got you going? What introduced you to the world of entertainment and said, this is what I want to do? What got you here?
So, in the deep recesses of evil, from the cesspools of hell. No. So actually, my story originates in it's not Pallet Town, but it's pretty close. It's a city here in Southern California, near Los Angeles County, called Simi Valley, where a few of us nerds may know it as a great place to film a lot of different types of media. Simi Valley has been featured in Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, also in The Mandalorian Season 2, during the not the rescue. It was the episode where Grogu's on the Seeing Stone. They filmed at Rocky Peak there. So yeah, I'm from a city called Simi Valley, here in close to Los Angeles County, California. And I had always an appreciation and a knack for animation and video games. And ever since I was 4, when my grandma, my Lola, had bought me my very first Nintendo 64. And Super Mario 64 was my very first game. And so I loved being able to imitate Charles Martinet and being able to hear dialogue from different video games, from different anime, from Pokemon, Cardcaptor Sakura, Bleach, Rurouni Kenshin, the like. And so eventually I figured, you know what? I don't see me ever pursuing on-camera acting. So I thought voice acting was the next best thing. And so I pursued that and explored during my high school years and met other people around the world through forums like Voice Acting Alliance. That's an old name. Tale as old as time, along with being on YouTube and experimenting and learning the art of voice acting. And so eventually there was a little thing called the pandemic that hit the world. And so things changed the dynamic. People were starting to also voice act from their homes. And then when things started reopening, I decided to pursue background acting, in which my adventure through film on camera started being more of a thing. And that's when also I started pursuing motion capture for video games and animation. Afterwards, I started incorporating my martial arts backgrounds into stunts as well. And now I am here.
All right. That's a pretty cool story. I love that your grandma is called your Lola. I just think that's very cool. Honestly, that's a beautiful name for a Lola. And the reason why I think that's so cool is that, so my wife and I are recently new grandparents within the last year. And so, yeah. And so everybody's like, well, what do you want to be called? What do you want to be called? And I'm like, I don't know. I want him to be able to call me whatever he wants to call me when he's old enough to call me that.
Okay.
And so I'm just like, so for right now, I'm just grandpa. I just call myself grandpa. but my wife has been, she wants to be called Sunny, because that she wants to. Yeah, my wife had talked about wanting to be called Sunny because she wanted to be the sunshine in his life, and and things like that. And I just thought that was very sweet. So, and it's been a lot of fun being a grandpa. So I always like hearing those names when I hear somebody say, like you just said, that my grandma, my Lola, and I'm like, oh, it's just very sweet to me. So, just a little tidbit there, but I think it's very cool, and I love the fact that you spent a lot of time trying to emulate the things that you were seeing and witnessing and all those things. I think that's a very cool way to get started in all of this. Now, in pre-show, I had talked to you about doing some light stalking of your Instagram and IMDb pages, and I had seen your Facebook, and you and I are Facebook friends.
Yes.
And I originally I thought, man, he's doing some pretty stellar cosplays, because I had seen you in some Jedi gear and the Mandalorian gear, and I was like, that's some really detailed stuff. That is it is detailed, and it's very well done what you're rocking there. But then I also saw that you were doing videos with Michelle C. Smith, who has been a guest of our show before, and she's a badass. She's freaking amazing with the lightsaber. The things that she can do is gravity defying and mystifying to me. But anyway, I was hoping that you could explain why what I was seeing, and explain it for our listeners and our viewers, why it's more than cosplay, what you're doing in the Star Wars world with all that fun stuff you're doing.
Yes. So, given my background in stunts and martial arts, and cosplay, it's all a very interwoven reality. I'm actually involved in a costuming group called Saber Guild, which is very much like the 501st Legion and Rebel Legion, along with the Mandalorian Mercs, Rogues of Mandalore, and Mando Clan Shroud, in which I am a part of the latter two for Mandalorians. And basically, with specifically Saber Guild, we are a recognized Lucasfilm costuming group that is also a performance group as well. And we are the only ones who are approved by Lucasfilm to engage in stage combat and film fighting choreography. And so, which enables us as Jedi and Sith to create tales that aren't necessarily canon, but allow us to play in the world of a galaxy far, far away in costume as our own characters, or even face characters of those settings. And so, yes, being able to incorporate being a Mandalorian for fan films like from a certain point of view fan film series by Scott Wynn, which is the first in a series of ideas in which it's going to be the Civil War, and it's been told that this is their perspective of why the convert Mandalorians and the Night Owls from Mandalore are separate factions, and why they have beef with each other in season 3 of The Mandalorian. That aside, Saber Guild engages in different stories in which we perform for charity and help raise money with 501c3 organizations like Make-A-Wish Foundation, Bipolar Foundation, and the like, in order to extend our outreach and help give hope to those who have none.
Nice. That's very cool. I was going through your stuff, and I was seeing all these videos, and I was seeing all this stuff, and all of a sudden like I said, I came across the one that had Michelle C. Smith tagged it, and I was like, well, we're gonna watch this one for a couple extra seconds because we're about to see some stuff. And that's still, one of my favorite promo videos I've ever seen. Was the one of Daisy Ridley talking about Michelle C. Smith, and that's just so cool. Then we stole that for a promo video of ours to promo her coming on the show. I mean, we gave credit to the Daily Wire, for them making the video, but we're like, video by them, but look how awesome this is. And she's going to be on the show. Yeah. So Um, but yeah, and then I watched some of your stuff, and dude, you're pretty slick with a blade. It's impressive. No,
No,
I
thank.
don't just throw that out there willy nilly. I've seen a lot of guys try and huck a blade around and some things, and so I mean that wholeheartedly. I was pretty impressed by your saber ability. So yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. I mean, in actuality, I mean, if you love something as much as you do, you'll train at it, and you'll dedicate your time to it. And in all honesty, that's how you get better. Saber Guild literally does that. That's what we do throughout our 50 plus temples that we have worldwide. We teach
Nice.
folks who aren't even action actors. They're people who even have different athletic experience, or are dancers, or have zero experience at all, and we are able to teach them how to move and navigate on stage, and how to act, and how to break down character types, and being able to really manifest that into making it all their own.
Nice. Very nice. So out of sheer morbid curiosity, whose sabers do you use?
It's a blend. Some are character hilts. Some are by makers such as Saber Forge. Others are
Okay.
LGT or Tescu, in which those are Chinese makers,
Sure.
and they got wonderful designs. And there's one
Mm-hmm.
particularly that I picked up from Saber Nexus that is based off of the Ezra hilt from the Ahsoka series, the season
Oh,
one
yes, please.
of Ahsoka. Yes, it looks very much like Kanan Jarrus's Caleb Doom's hilt, but
Mm-hmm.
it's Ezra's all his own, and seeing that come together in that second to last episode of Ahsoka was just mind blowing, because Ezra has gone through 3 different sabers through his adventures in Rebels, and seeing that
Mm-hmm.
continue in Ahsoka was just absolutely mind blowing to see that come full circle. Um, the other hilts that come from Saber Nexus, Tescu, and LGT, and because they have a modular design, it really makes you feel like a Jedi, being able to assemble an emitter, a switch, a shaft, and then the pommel. And you can also combine them in
Oh,
order to
wow.
make a double-bladed lightsaber, or a lightsaber pike that you see in the Old Republic or KOTOR. Um, it's
That's
the
cool.
possibilities are endless, as much as the fighting styles that there are.
That's very cool. Yeah, one of
Yeah.
our one of the reasons I asked is that so like we do a lot of work with a company called Level Up Sabers. I don't know if you've ever heard of them,
Yes.
but
They're
Level
great.
Up Sabers, the only saber guaranteed to be better than a stick. Still love that tagline. That's a Master Allen, but this is my saber hilt right there.
Oh,
Um,
that's beautiful.
so I have to get the charger fixed. Something went bad on the circuitry, but he's sending me a new
Uh-oh.
one. But yeah, so yeah, but Master Allen's a very, very good guy, takes care of his people. But yeah, so I got this one a little while back, and I love the balance of it, the way it feels, and um, if nothing else, it's fun to whack people with. So
Man.
turn it red, give
Oh.
them a good whack, it'll be fine. You know. All right, so we also talked pre-show about my love for Star Wars. I kind of showed you a few things of my collection. Um,
Mm,
and I will say this to you because Kathleen, my co-host, isn't here tonight, and she can't mock me for it. Although she'll hear this later and she'll mock me later. But
okay.
I've always said that Star Wars. I've jokingly said, especially I have to use the word jokingly because my wife's right over there. That Star Wars is like my marriage. It's been there for me in good times and bad, sickness and in health. So
Oh.
it's been one of the most major things in my life outside of my marriage and my family. So
Mm,
I am curious, based on the number of things that you've been involved with in the Star Wars universe, the attention to detail that you gave, even just in the small things like knowing how many saber hilts that Ezra has been through. What does Star Wars mean to you, both personally and professionally?
it's a lifestyle. It's kind of like how the Mandalorians, the convert Mandalorians, think of it as a kind of creed. Star Wars has been so instrumental uh, in my formative years as a kid, and even as a teenager, even to now as an adult. I live my life practically like a cowboy, like a Ronin, like a cowboy Jedi, helping those who are in need, giving hope to those who have none, teaching. Strangely enough, when I never thought I would ever be someone who would be like an instructor, and
Nice.
now I'm able to coach folks in becoming better action actors, better voice actors. It's so mind blowing. It's when I think that there's an X amount of layers to Star Wars and how much it resonates in my life, there's more layers underneath it, and it just keeps peeling itself and then revealing more about who I am, and I just start to discover that, and other people start discovering it as I'm discovering it as well. So it allows the circle to be complete.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, that's one of the things I like about Star Wars is that as I've gotten older, things that I appreciated about Star Wars as a young man, I still like, but there are
Mm.
things now that mean far more, much more, and it's endeared itself to me in ways that are deeper and more meaningful, on a emotional, spiritual level than when I was a kid. And I was like, oh yeah, they have lightsabers and they shoot each other. This is great. They blow things up. And
Right.
now I find myself looking at stories of found family and all these different things. And I love that story trope of found family because it's literally in every Star Wars show. And
Hmm.
how that affects the people in the show and how that story gets told. And to me, that's one of the biggest things. And so I do love that.
Same, especially with all the different types of content that come out. Even the
Oh yeah.
Disney Junior Young Jedi Adventure show. Uh, you would think like, oh, it's a kids show. How can the rest of the Star Wars fan base enjoy that? It's like, oh, I only watch The Mandalorian or I only watch The Acolyte. It's
You're missing
so
out.
good. Exactly. People are missing out. I'm like, I remember when people were complaining about, oh, I'm not watching the Clone Wars because it's a cartoon. It's like, did you know that Darth Maul's back? Did you know this happens? Have you met Ahsoka Tano? And they're like, who's this Ahsoka Tano? So the
That
rest
was
is
me,
history.
honestly.
And that's okay. Because
No, it's funny
not
that
fan
that
of
that you mentioned it in that type of phrasing because that was
yeah.
literally me, and that was my argument against it. I was like, this is a kid show, it's cartoon. Who wants to watch a cartoon, a watered down version of Star Wars? And now it's like,
Mm,
me, I want to watch that version of Star Wars. I freaking
yeah.
love that version of Star Wars. um but yeah, I'd watched, like, I think the first couple episodes of season 1, and I was like, yeah, this is kid stuff. I'm done. And then I talked to somebody at great length and in multiple volumes, uh,
Yeah.
and the discussion came around to, well, you have to get past those first couple episodes, really, and then it really takes off starting season 2. And I was like, yeah, okay, fine, I'll give it a chance. And towards the end of season 1, I'm like, they might be onto something. This might be cooking here a little bit. And then season 2, and then I cried see all of season 7, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, now it's like anything animation comes out for Star Wars, like the recent announcement of Tales of the Underworld, and I'm like, May 4th can't get here soon enough. So
Yes, absolutely. And probably Vision season 3 might drop during Celebrations Japan. So,
I can't wait to find out what else is coming. I'm so excited. So
oh, so much.
so
It's
excited.
New Year. It's New Year.
Yeah,
It's our
yeah,
New Year.
absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so let's talk a little bit about you, Justin, and a little bit about your process and how you do things now, because you
Sure.
do work both in front of the camera and behind the microphone. So some actors have different approaches and how they handle those things. Now, for you, your approach and your process to a character, is it the same, and it doesn't matter, based on where you're at, or do you have different approaches for in front of the camera and behind the microphone?
That's a very great question, Jim. Thank you. I like to switch it up in order to keep my mind fresh, so that way it's not like the same approach each time. So that way, not only do I challenge myself, but also it allows me to see how to be a talent from a different perspective. So I'll use something as easy as working background, for example. When I
Okay.
worked on Obi-Wan Kenobi, and that was in 2021. It was summer. It was hot. I remember the very first day that we literally knew nothing about it, and I went for my fitting, and that happened, and then we went into a rehearsal on the volume at Manhattan Beach Studios, where the Mandalorian was filmed, the Book of Boba Fett was filmed, and yeah, it blew my mind. And so um, we worked it out, and so you're given a direction from the first AD, the first assistant director. They tell you the premise of what's going on without giving any story details because you don't really need that. And so it allows you to play with that overarching umbrella, and then you it's like you're given a toy box, and you take whatever is available in that toy box and use it to your advantage. um, if I'm going to use that scene, whenever we see Obi-Wan cutting the sand whale meat,
Mhm.
uh, there were different elements in that. You'd see like the different pots there that are boiling with something, and also we're cutting the meat or we're salting it, or even on the top layer, it's like we're harvesting the sand whale blubber and using that as like kind of like a tarp, kind of like to cover things. That there are some details that you can't see on the episode itself unless you look very minutely, very closely. And so I was very surprised that I got to experience this, and I wish every Star Wars fan could experience what we experienced on set. But yeah, it just allowed me to really just set in. And so when I'm given that umbrella thought, I think in terms of what am I feeling from the outside, and I start making my way through layers as I start reaching internally. So what am I feeling on the outside? So obviously it's hot. It's Tatooine, the desert planet. Then a
Sure.
little further down, it's like, how do I feel about this heat at these conditions? And I could be tired. I could be exhausted. I could be thirsty. And so then it starts to internalize more. Am I feeling distressed? Am I feeling hopeless? It's like, do I have the motivation to keep going? Am I about to drop out onto the sandy um, grounds of Anchorhead and like at a moment's notice? And so really it starts from being introspective, and making your way to an introspective way of breaking it down. That's as far as camera goes. With voice acting, you're given a character description. I'll be very brief with it, and so you're given lines of dialogue. So it's very different. You don't have to be as uh, conservative with your movement as with camera, because camera loves when you're subtle. With voice acting, you don't care because all that's coming in is what you're feeding into the microphone, whether it's up here, down
Right.
here, and so on, or off to the side. And so your dialogue, I would say pause for plane, but I'm not a boom operator today. But yeah, so you're given lines of dialogue, and with that, and given your background from the voice director and telling you what kind of character they are, oh, what's the scene, what's the setting, you take into consideration all these different factors and how they may feel. And sometimes you might want to start with the internal and then make their way outwards, and because how they're thinking on the inside or internally can influence how they act physically, and thus that can also enhance or adjust your performance in an audio setting.
All right. Very
Very
cool.
loaded
Yeah.
answer.
No, I like it. I always say that I find that the longest answers are the best answers because it provides a little bit of detail that maybe we wouldn't think of, not being on that side of things. As
Mhm.
being a viewer, those are perspectives and things that we wouldn't have on the everyday. So I do like that because it's one of the things I love about the show is that I get a chance to have different perspectives about things that I've seen, that I've watched, that I've enjoyed over the years, and to
Mhm.
have the perspective of and I didn't even think about that because I do remember seeing some of that stuff, and it was just like, oh yeah, they're cutting the meat, but
Yeah.
to think of it from the perspective of, oh, everybody there has a job and they're performing different functions, not just, hey, just make it look like you're busy doing something. And I think that's it's a cool.
I've always enjoyed voice acting because I don't have to worry about a facial capture performance. I don't have to move with my body. But I like to say throughout the years I've grown to like being seen. And so it's very revitalizing to be able to switch between being a voice actor and being a on-camera performer as well. And he's back.
I don't know what happened.
I don't know what happened either.
Just died. It just died. I was plugged in and just all of a sudden like, oh my God. All right. So I appreciate you being professional, and the show must go on. And I came back to your and on-screen performers, and I don't know what else you said, but I'm sure it was top-notch and wonderful.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, no, yeah, the show must go on. I was just telling. I mean, you can splice that in if you want.
I will. Just talking it'll all be edited and cleaned
You'll see
up.
It.
So.
But we're glad you're okay. That's the main thing.
Yeah, everything is fine over here. Just I got to figure out what's going on with that power cord. It is not charging properly. So okay.
Uh-oh.
All right. So so one of the other things I like to ask people, Justin, and this is because you've gotten an opportunity, especially with somebody who's gotten an opportunity to play in a couple of fun different sandboxes. You know, you've been in the Fortnite sandbox, you've been in the Star Wars sandbox. You're doing all this cool stuff both on screen and behind screen for Star Wars, and you've done a bunch of voice acting. You've been on screen for, like we mentioned, for the Goldbergs, and again, we could go on and all these different things that you've been on. But I always find it interesting that though sometimes people have had an opportunity to be perhaps in the franchise that they love, maybe it's not the role that they dream of. So let's just throw this out there to the universe. What is the dream role for Justin Cabanting?
My dream role. Oh my goodness. That's okay here. I'm gonna say it. So there is a wonderful franchise by Capcom known as Biohazard or Resident Evil in other territories. That was actually, yes, my mom introduced me to a survival horror genre rated M for mature at the age of 4. It became one of the most iconic franchises of my childhood, and to this day, I am hoping that I can be on a Resident Evil Biohazard game, whether for motion cap or either for performance capture or voice acting, or heck, if they do a live action adaptation and it is written really well, I would be so for it. Whether I'm a zombie or I'm an RPD officer or someone who's not as cool as Leon S. Kennedy, but kind of close to it. Or Chris Redfield or Jill Valentine, Rebecca Chambers, I'd be all for it. Working in that realm of Biohazard would be the absolute dream come true for me.
That's awesome. All right. Well, here's to hoping. Hey,
fingers crossed.
I always exactly. I always say it can't hurt to throw it out in the universe. You never know who's listening and says, he'd be pretty cool for that. Let's get him. Oh, hey, it's worth a shot.
That'd be pretty cool, just going a corner and then
right.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know. All right. These next couple questions are going to be pretty quick fire. We're almost to the end here. Your punishment is almost done. So, all right. So time for suggestions, Justin.
Okay.
What is one book or song that everyone should know, read, or be listening to? You can take either a book or a song, or you can do both.
Let's do book. A Court of Thorns and Roses. It's a young adult novel series that everyone should.
I know that one.
There we go.
My daughter absolutely loves that one.
So great.
Yeah,
Mass
and
destruction.
She has said the same. Yeah, she has said the same. That's one of her absolute favorites. All right, very cool. I will let her know that she will squeal as soon as I tell her. All right, and this last one we call our silly question because it's not really all that silly, but here it is. So my co-host Kathleen, who's not here tonight, she has a daughter, and her daughter were out and about, and her daughter's younger. And somebody asked her daughter this question, but not Kathleen. And Kathleen was like, well, that's rude. And so we think it should be asked of everyone. So we ask it of everyone. So Justin, what's your favorite dinosaur?
Ooh, I'm ready for this one. It's an Ankylosaurus.
I'm going to have to look that one up. I'm sure of it.
That is our wrecking ball tail with the spikes.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the spikes that come out of the side with a kind of like a rigid top, kind of looks like a turtle shell with kind of like angular spikes that come out laterally, and they're really cute, really epic. It's like people
looks like an angry armadillo, basically. This
guy. Yeah,
guy.
angry armadillo. That's him. So
all right, that's cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right.
I love it.
Yeah, I think as soon as I saw him, I realized that we've had one other person say that dinosaur. Because I didn't it's one of those ones that I forget the name of them until I hear it again. And I'm like, oh yeah, right. It's that one. But we've had that one other time. So yeah. All right. Very cool. All right. Well, Justin, thank you so much for being on the FSF Popcast today. Where can our listeners and viewers go to find out more about you, what you're doing, what you've got coming up, and all that fun stuff?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, X, and through my handle at jcabantingva, or you may also find me on Blue Sky at jcabantingvoices.com, which is also the name of my website.
There we go. Perfect. Well, I'll make sure that we put those links down below for our listeners and viewers to find them, to give you a follow. And if you guys haven't already, if you're not already, please consider giving the FSF Popcast a follow here on YouTube. It's the most important thing you can do to help our show continue to grow. Get amazing guests like Justin Cabanting here today to sit down, have this conversation with us, and find about what all of these other cool nerds are doing out in the universe. And, so yeah, just give us the follow. It really does help. And considering giving Justin a follow as well, because Justin's got some cool stuff going on. And frankly, you will spend more time than you think you will on his Instagram page. Ask me how I know. Anyway, so go check out his work. It's very cool stuff out there. So again, Justin, thank you for being on the show. Guys, go give Justin a follow, and may the force be with you as you continue to live long and prosper. Goodbye.
Copyright 2025 FSF Popcast. Reference any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF Popcast. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpopcast.com.